Rise of the Ronin on Steam Deck, thanks to KOEI TECMO Games for providing a code of the game. So I've been playing this game on stream yesterday actually, and well, it's not a good PC port, like most games from the Katana engine. When it comes to Steam Deck compatibility, we are on Valve is still learning about the title. It's from the people behind Neo and Ninja Gaiden, so let's get into it. So when it comes to the options menu, I was actually surprised by the amount of options. That's not that common in games from KOEI TECMO. So when it comes to presets, we got Ultra all the way down to very low. It doesn't go lower than very low, obviously. Then for upscaling, we got no upscaling, FSR3, XeSS, and if you're on PC, also DLSS. We have upscaling from performance to native, so no ultra performance. I usually don't use ultra performance, so that's fine. There is FrameGen, which requires you to be on borderless. Keep that in mind, we're going to try it later. There's dynamic resolution as well, but it doesn't work particularly great. And then when it comes to the settings, I put everything on the absolute lowest settings possible, excepting anisotropic filtering, because this is usually okay. So if it has an option to disable it, I disabled it, and we're at 720. Unfortunately, we don't have 16:10. So we have all these resolutions, but 16:10 is not available. So we only got an option for 720 with the black bars, and we cannot go lower than 720 to use the FSR1 that is included in SteamOS. And thanks to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Instant Gaming is a webpage that sells games for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. They sell games for cheaper, and you can buy, as an example, Monster Hunter Wilds for $59.58, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 for $49.89, and it even includes again PlayStation and Xbox. You can also find games that are not released yet, such as Doom the Dark Ages and Assassin's Creed Shadows. To celebrate this partnership, we're giving away one free game to one of you guys each month by following the link in the description, hit participate, follow Instant Gaming and myself in social media to get more chances to win. And you can win one game of your choice in the entirety of Instant Gaming. So thanks again to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Let's continue. Alright, so welcome to Rise of the Ronin. We are again at 720 with performance upscaling, which is 50% 720p. And you might say, okay, 40 FPS, not bad at all, with some drops into the 30s. Well, this is the very beginning of the game, and this is a big open world game. And this is the very beginning of the game. So let's see how that goes. So things that you can notice is the very poor draw distance of the shadows and the geometry. I mean, there's a lot of sacrifices being made over here. But the CPU usage is insanely high, the GPU usage as well. And the VRAM usage is high as expected, but I was expecting honestly worse when it came to VRAM and RAM usage. And this is a tutorial, so there's not much going on really. That's why I wanted to show this first. This is the first thing that you're going to see. Although right after this, it's going to be a small ship level. And that's when you get to the open world, that is way more demanding than this, obviously. But here it actually looks like it's possible to actually play the game on Steam Deck despite all the visual sacrifices. The thing is, the game takes a while to load for the first time. It has to compile shaders and all that. And when it's loading a cutscene, the cutscenes stutter significantly because they are real-time cutscenes. And well, this is basically what we got. When you're traversing and more demanding stuff shows up, it starts stuttering and dropping frames. But if you give it the benefit of the doubt at the beginning, it looks to be playable. Alright, so now I loaded a save that I'm later into the game. And by later into the game, I mean in the town. And as you can see, it runs in slow motion, which might be weird to you, and it is. That's because our frame rate is set to 60 as the target. So to fix this, it's actually pretty simple. You need to pause the game. And instead of a 60 frames per second limit, we need a 30 FPS limit. So make sure here to put it at 30 and at 30 over here. And the slow motion will disappear. We only get low frame rates. But the city itself, well, it has a few NPCs here and there and a lot of buildings. The game uses a lot of CPU no matter what. It takes forever to load, which is an issue that I noticed in this game in particular on Steam Deck. It's at 100% CPU loading the level, so it takes like 1.5 to 2 minutes to load a save, which I think is pretty crazy, because there are other games that look and run better, that load way faster. So I found that very odd. And as you can see, the frame rate is very low. The CPU is crying, the GPU is crying, and since the GPU is crying, the CPU cannot... and since the CPU is crying, the GPU cannot use all the frequency. It's at 700 MHz, but the maximum it can go is 1600, and that's because the Steam Deck has a limit of 15 watts, and with those 15 watts, they have to share between the CPU and the GPU. So in order to do that, and the CPU to do its job, they gotta, drop the clocks on the GPU. You can force a higher clock if you want to, but it's going to be CPU limited. So at the end of the day, it's the same thing. So it looks horrible on the Steam Deck with this very low resolution and runs horrible. And it takes forever to load. Alright, so I'm back. I went and fast traveled somewhere else just to show you outside of the city. And as soon as I start turning the camera around, the CPU usage spikes and we get drops into the 20s, sometimes into the teens. But when it drops the most is when we're CPU bound in the city or just traversing in general. Then when you're into combat, especially in the city, well, you're going to notice even more of a drop on the GPU side. But yeah, I think this is unplayable. You're going to spend a lot of time traversing, going to cities, fast traveling, and it's just 90% of the time below 30 FPS. In the prologue, you might see higher frame rates and whatever, but it's like a few minutes into the game, and the cutscenes also have stability problems. Let me raise this banner. So personally, I don't think this game is playable on Steam Deck. You might say, okay, 20 FPS, maybe you can still play it. Yeah, but it's not enjoyable at all, like this. Especially when it comes to combat. So let's get... Yeah, as soon as I get anywhere close to the city, there's multiple open worlds, by the way, it starts suffering significantly. The CPU is just dying over here. Okay, frame generation is on. And it gets even worse. So it might look smoother on camera, but if you look at the frame time and you look at the image itself, I mean, you can still notice that it has problems. So again, as I usually say, always higher number doesn't always mean better. And this is a great example of it. And now I'm going to put the GPU at a higher frequency, because that's something else that you tell me always that I'm doing wrong. Let's put it at 1400, so the CPU has something to work with. 1400 MHz. And we're still in slow motion. So yeah, this is not going to happen. It feels very unresponsive. If you look at me move the camera, it takes forever to respond. And I cannot select the 30 FPS option when I'm using FrameGen. So it defaults to 60, that if you're dropping into the 30s will be in slow motion. So, yep. We are SOL, in my opinion. You can still kill NPCs though. But it's not going to be a good experience on Steam Deck. So anyway guys, that's it for now. I hope you found this video interesting and insightful. I hope in the future we get a way to get this playable on Steam Deck. I personally don't think that's ever going to happen, all things considered. I think this goes down to the engine level. I told you at the beginning, they're using the Katana engine, their proprietary engine. And again, I think it's just, this game is way too ambitious for the engine that it's using. Because on PC, it also doesn't run particularly great and it has a lot of bugs. especially when it comes to performance. So personally, it doesn't surprise me that it runs like this on Steam Deck. Just think about it. Unreal Engine 5 games run better than this on Steam Deck. Even higher end ones. So yeah guys, thank you for watching and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys.